Holla ballers, what's going on? It's Preacher, and Mythic Raiding is coming. So you've got to be kind of careful about how this works. Really do, because I'm lucky enough to have been through this process before. I was there at the fall of 40 man when suddenly 25 man was the big thing and we were going to make all these plans. It was going to be so beautiful. Some of you are probably thinking that right now. As soon as you saw that Mythic Raiding announcement, 20 people, that's where the goals lie. We're probably thinking, yes. But what I'm going to do is go through some do's and don'ts, things you need to be ready for, because things go fucking badly during the expansion crossover, yeah? When we go from one expansion to another, when we change the sides of our raids, things go a little bit awry, you might fall into a big fucking pile of crap. Don't want you to do that. So you're probably one of four scenarios. You're in a 10-man guild looking to either merge, or you're looking to kind of recruit some more people to get up to 20. You're in a 25-man and you're loving the idea of dropping 5 of your friends who aren't that great and becoming, you know, a nice little 20-man guild, which is now going to be made up of the elite. Or you're one of those raid leaders like I was, or you're a raider who has been contacted by somebody who's going to be making a brand new guild, usually secretly. And the fourth scenario is you don't raid and you're not interested. And I encourage those guys to change their minds because it's a very satisfying experience. So hopefully that covers most of you. There'll always be guys who are outside on the fringes, but that generally covers mostly everybody. So let's go through them one by one. Again, entirely based off my own experience in dealing with this scenario. So you're in a 10-man and you're thinking, we need to merge with some people, we need to get better. Everything you hear during this process is a fucking lie. Alright? It's a lie. Every 10-man guildmaster, or every guildmaster, not just a 10-man, when talking about a merge, will claim that every single member of their guild is a starlit sunshine, and they're not. They're fucking awful. And plus what happens is it's not as easy as just merging 2 guilds together. By any means, because what happens is you tend to end up with something like 4 warlocks or 5 druids or something crazy. Ain't gonna really work out in a 20-man unless that fight really demands that amount of people, so people are gonna get cut, right? It's not easy. You want to be aiming for about 25 to 30 people at minimum. At minimum, this goes for everybody, no matter which scenario you're a part of. And that's because a new expansion means dropouts. Loads of dropouts. Okay, people do not like changes in expansion. Now, for a lot of people, this might be your first expansion. And you won't like what happens. Your gear gets reset, but you worked really hard for it. And suddenly it's not worth anything. You're rocketing greens. Right now, you're smashing faces with a legendary meta gem and a legendary cloak, and then pretty soon it's not going to be worth a piss. So people drop out, which means you need to expect about 30% of people to disappear when the new expansion actually settles in. Not in the first weeks. In the first weeks, what we see is a ton of people return to the game, check out the new stuff. People are excited. There's a thrill of change, and then it settles in like it did in Mists of Pandaria that, oh, I have like 8 factions worth of daily quests every day, and they all suck, and I don't want to play this game anymore. Happened really early on in Mists of Pandaria, but it happens in every expansion is people don't like the changes, they don't like what's happened to their class, they just don't like something. And you might love it, but it doesn't matter. If someone doesn't like it, they're not going to play anymore. You need to be backing up for this 30% dropout factor every time you do this stuff, okay? Really build that into your numbers if you're a raid leader or you're looking at guild merges and you're weighing things up. Also, bear in mind, as I said, for the 10-mans who are merging or recruiting people, you're going to get some absolute dickheads. It's going to happen. Every guild has them. You know who they are. Those guys in your guild that are going to cause you problems. But you can almost guarantee that your raid leader wants to come off strong. Your guild master wants to come off strong. He wants to be the new guild master. He wants to be the new raid leader. So he's going to say, hey, my guild that I'm bringing with me, or that's your guild's joining, we're the solid A team, the core team. We're the guys who are going to be in charge in this situation, all right? Because they don't want to give up that power. They don't want to give up their guild master. They certainly don't really want to do co-GM. That very rarely works, guys. Really very rarely works. And if you are looking at a guild merger or something along those lines, still be recruiting. Get as many people as you can. More than likely, it's actually better if you try and get 3 10-mans together. Because in most 10-mans, what you're looking at really is about 7 or 8 decent people, couple of fucking dropouts, the guys who turn up late, don't turn up on time, or don't show up at all, and when they do, they're kind of a fucking pain in the ass. You know what I'm talking about. 3 10-mans merging is better than 2. Get 30 people, get 35 in, even for a 10-man, because I'm telling you, you're going to run into some bad times. Remember, you're after a core 20 to 25 at least. All right? At least. If you think you can rely on the specific 20 people to show up every single raid night, ain't going to happen. Count for the dropouts. Count for the fact that people are lying about the members of their raid that are joining you. Big time. Next scenario, 25-man getting smaller. A lot of you are going to be really happy about this, aren't you? Yes, you are. You're looking at that 20-man Mythic announcement and you're thinking to yourself, all right, now we can kick those fucking slackers that we keep having to drag along. I envy you, your naivete, because I was in the same position. I've got to be honest. When I saw 40 go to 25, I was like, thank God, because I'm always carrying those 15 people at least every single raid, and it's a pain in the ass, and it doesn't work out, and all this kind of shit. Believe me, you're not wrong to think that way, but it doesn't work out that way. Same thing as before, you're going to have a huge amount of dropouts, and some of those will be your core members, all right? Some of those are the big guys. Always something to bear in mind, guys. As the new expansions come, people are getting older. All right, you can't avoid that. Whereas last year you had, say, little Johnny Two Shoes, who Johnny Two Shoes was there every single fucking raid, but this year he's going to university or he's going to college or he's just suddenly had a baby for some reason or something like that has happened, and little Johnny Two Shoes, who you could rely on 100% during Mists of Pandaria, suddenly isn't around anymore, and you'll be gutted and upset, but it happens. Okay? It happens, so you need to bear that in mind. So don't start kicking people straight away, because sometimes it takes those guys who are the slackers in Mr. Pandaria to be put in that position where suddenly their spot is really at stake, and sometimes they come out shining. Don't start kicking people now is what I'm telling you. If you're a 25-man going down to Mythic Raiding, certainly don't start kicking people, and more importantly, start recruiting. Start recruiting. If you've got some old flames, some old heroes who want to return, tell them there might be an opportunity of a raid spot. Don't say, oh, we're full on DKs. For the love of God, don't say things like we're full on X class, because you do not know what will happen in this transition process. People will leave, people will disappear. Even those Johnny Two Shoes reliable guys, they'll just be out of there and gone. You don't want to be in that situation where suddenly you've got none of that class. All right? You don't want that to happen at all. So bear in mind, if you are going from 25 to 20, can be a blessing, but you need to not start kicking people and be recruiting at the same time. You want to be trying people out now. Looks like we've got a hell of a long time in Mists of Pandaria to be trying people out. And your old school members might want that little bit of a break every now and again. They might want to rock and all or whatever. So start trying people out now. You might find some diamonds in the rough. And the next thing I want to talk about, if you're going 25 to 20, do not count on your fucking raid spot. Absolutely do not count on your raid spot. If you were guaranteed a raid spot and you feel really comfortable right now, you shouldn't. Okay? I have seen some very powerful members of guilds suddenly go by the goddamn wayside when it came to dropping the raid sizes down. It's a weird situation, but there's often a lot of power plays that go on here, and people don't really account for that because they just think it's my 25-man guild. We're going down to 20. I was always a core member of the 25-man, so I'm pretty safe for the 20-man, right? Wrong. Absolutely not. A lot of people might not even like you. Simple facts, guys. In the 25-man, they might have needed you. You're even a good player, right? But you rub some people up the wrong way. We all do. Not everybody likes everybody, right? And when this situation occurs, you're out the fucking door and you don't know what happened, and you've not proved yourself. What happens is you get very comfortable in your raid spot and you tend to be a little bit relaxed, especially with a lot of farming coming up, and you start relaxing a little bit. Maybe you're going to miss a few raids. Maybe you're going to take a little break until Warlords of Draenor, something along those lines. In that time, you will either be replaced or somebody will come along to fight for your spot. Don't be overly comfortable. Be under the idea that right now you are trialing for your mythic raid spot. That's what you're doing, no matter how long you've been in the guild. Little story about that coming up next. The new guild. This is the one that I was guilty of, okay? I've talked about this in the past. When the Burning Crusade was coming out, I did not like my 40-man guild at all. I was actually in a very corrupt, awful 40-man guild for my Naxxramas runs, okay? I didn't spend most of vanilla in that guild, but as I wanted to finish the content, I joined this guild and they were corrupt, twisted. The officers were extremely close and extremely manipulative in how they did things. So my decision was, as many others will decide, is when the Burning Crusade was announced and its 25-man raiding, I was going to cherry pick players from across the server and also some people who were returning to form a brand new guild. It seems lovely. And this will be going on. Don't sit back and think that this doesn't happen, because I did it. and then a lot of other people who did this as well. There will be conversations going on right now with people who are on your server in different guilds, and they will be contacted by certain people, or you will be the person who's doing the contacting, saying, hey, what's your plans for Warlords of Draenor? And they'll be like, well, I was just going to stick around in my guild or whatever. Well, I'm forming this new guild and it's going to have blah, blah, blah in it. And these guys are really good players. And then they will say, really? And it's like, yeah, you know what I mean? We can even bring a couple of your friends from your current guild into the new guild, and we're going to form a sort of elite team. Be very wary of words like the elite or anything like that, because it doesn't work out that way. Let me tell you from experience. It starts off well. It's generally what happens. It starts off well, but then it kind of goes downhill a little bit. Yeah, it goes downhill and it's a little bit suck-ass. So what will happen is these conversations are going on, or you are making these conversations, and people will say yes. One of the reasons people will say yes to you, as I found out pretty easily, is that they don't like saying no, because they think they will get hassled. True, you can kind of imagine that. People will be like, yeah, sure. Maybe even that person just wants to keep his options open. It's not quite sure where his guild's going in Warlords of Draenor. It's always nice to have the option to go another way. But then D-Day arrives, and this is what happened. I had a solid roster of about 30 people lined up for the Burning Crusade launch day. Fortunately, we only got around 20 people. Where did those 15 players go? Some were dropouts. I remember specifically I got a hunter who was a hunter officer of one of the major guilds on the server. Never seemed to miss a fucking raid. Spoke regularly to him all the way up to the launch of the Burning Crusade. Motherfucker never logged in. Never once logged in. Just disappeared off the face of the earth, could not be contacted. It happens. Alright, it happens. The other guilds that you're getting these people from have actually pulled their shit together in the last few weeks, and the guys are going to stick around there. They've got their friends in that guild, they're pretty comfortable, and you are untested ground. You are untested ground. They're uncertain, they're unsure. But their current guild that they've been in for a while now, throughout Mists of Pandaria, is actually pulling its act together a little bit. So I'm going to stick around there and see what happens. And, you know, maybe it'll work out, maybe it won't. But I've got a bit of a safety net there and I can stick around. And this happens all along. The people who came back for Warlords of Draenor, the people you spoke to over Facebook, or you contacted them through the phone or Skype or whatever. And it's like, hey, you think you want to come back for Warlords of Draenor? I've got a spot lined up for you. You can be a tank, a healer, whatever you want to be. But I think you're really going to like Warlords of Draenor. We've got this new raid scene. And it's, you know, it's 20 mans, which means we can get the elite. There's that word again. We can make an elite group of 20 people, and we're going to kick ass and take some names. We're going to have hardly any wipes. People I've chosen are always the guys who turn up on time. They're always on voice comms. They're very active. They speak. They're good players. All the bullshit. Because let's face facts. If you are going to be a part of the new guild process, you're going to hear a lot of bullshit because people have to sell it to you. Of course they do. And then what happens is they return, and one, they're not as good as you remember. Very big problem with old players returning to the game is they're just not used to how the new meta game is. What they considered difficult maybe back in Wrath of the Lich King is actually really easy these days. And when we actually throw some content at them, they go, whoa, I can't handle this. Great story of a guy who came back to the game, and I forgot that he'd left the game before dual crafting came in. Fantastic player. But didn't understand dual crafting. And then we looked at it and he was like, I don't get this. I'm not playing it anymore. It happens. All right? When I said that you are not ready, if your guild is transferring and you're aware of it, of forming a new guild and they're recruiting old members, this was, I'm going to tell you a specific story about these people who are comfortable in their raid spots and when they're looking at this new guild process. In Vanilla, a very, very powerful guild on one of the major servers was actually going to form a new guild on a different server. Get a clean break kind of aspect to it. On that server, there was a warrior who was a member of this mega guild, this mega 40-man guild that was clearing everything weekly. This guy was awesome. As far as we were concerned, he was absolutely awesome. He was the only warrior on the server to have an Ash Candy Greatsword of the Brotherhood. This guy raided so hardcore, guys, so hardcore, that not only would he attend every single raid his guild was doing, but as soon as they cleared their content, he would then go to smaller guilds and raid with them. Serious, pretty no-lifing situation here. The guy would raid all day, every day, and if he wasn't raiding, he would then be in 5-mans helping out people from lower guilds. He was one of the first people I ever healed who was a DPS warrior in a 5-man content back in Vanilla. Not easy to do back in the day, but really geared to the teeth. And as far as the realm was concerned, this guy was pretty much the bee's fucking knees. Now, what happened when they made a new guild? What happened when that new guild came about? Suddenly our friend isn't part of that roster and we couldn't work it out. Simple fact is, was too confident, not happy. The guild didn't want him around. They kind of thought he was just not really a nice fit. And that's all it can take sometimes, guys, is you are not a nice fit. You raid enough, you're always on time, you're reliable, your DPS is good, but you're not the right fit for the new guild. Perhaps they're inviting 7 or 6 other members from somewhere else, and they don't like you for whatever reason. And they said, yeah, we'll join your guild, but we don't want him in it. And that's what happened. He ended up on his ass and ended up leaving the game. Nothing is set in stone, especially with a brand new guild. You are untested waters. You don't know what kind of deals are going on. And it sounds corrupt, doesn't it? It sounds like some politician's thing. This is all politics. You're trying to get people involved. And you're trying to convince them it's a good idea. And people have issues with various things. It's all about negotiating. And ultimately, some people who you might not think deserve it actually get left behind because they're replaceable. Not hard to find a DPS warrior was the decision they made. And it wasn't. It wasn't hard to replace him. So there you go. Those are three major things. If you don't raid, of course, have a little look at raiding. It's a great, satisfying experience. But those are 3 little scenarios there that you're probably going to be a part of if you're getting into the Mythic Raiding scene. I'm not trying to be negative on this. What I'm trying to say is don't cut your nose off to spite your face. Don't start kicking people. Don't think that if you get 20, then you're set. Because you're not. All right? You're not set in stone in that scenario. You need more people because there's so much that happens that we don't even know about. There is a long time between now and Warlords of Draenor where anything could happen, right? People can drop out. And as I said, simple fact, people are getting older. People getting older means generally less free time to sit around and play WoW, and then you Mr. Reliable suddenly not playing anymore. Some food for thought, guys. Food for thought. Have a good day. I'll see you again.